Clara Johnson's face contorted with rage as she screamed at Sophia. "Get out of this car right now." Judge Wilson gripped the steering wheel tightly, torn between his professional reputation and doing what was right. "Clara, we're miles from anywhere," he protested, but his wife was beyond reason. "Either she goes, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of judge you really are," Clara threatened. Sophia quietly gathered her purse and stepped out into the unfamiliar neighborhood, the car door slamming behind her. But this moment wasn't the beginning of their story. It was the breaking point that would force 3 lives to change forever. What drives a respected woman to such cruelty? What secrets lie beneath the perfect facade of the Wilson household? And how did a simple household manager become the catalyst that would shatter everything they thought they knew about themselves? Welcome back to Zenith Inspiring Stories. If you've ever witnessed how jealousy can poison even the most promising relationships, this story will resonate deeply. Before we begin this journey of betrayal, redemption, and unexpected connections, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories that might just change how you see the world around you. 6 months earlier, Judge Wilson's chambers were immaculate, just like his reputation. At 38, he'd become the youngest district court judge in the state, brilliant, principled, and destined for greater heights. But behind closed doors, the weight of Solomon-like decisions had begun to hollow him out. Each night, he returned home later, avoiding the growing silence between him and Clara. Clara Johnson hadn't always been the judge's wife. Once she'd been Clara the curator, whose exhibitions drew crowds from across the country. Her eye for beauty and meaning had caught Wilson's attention at a gallery opening 7 years ago. Now, at 35, she traded her career for charity and the perfect hostess smile that never quite reached her eyes. The daughter of a man who'd walked away when she was 12, Clara had built her life around never being abandoned again. When Wilson suggested hiring help, Clara resisted. But when he mentioned his upcoming high-profile case, she relented. Sophia Mendez arrived for her interview in a simple blue dress, her resume revealing a hospitality management degree and experience far beyond household management. At 27, she carried herself with quiet dignity that belied her circumstances. Hospital bills that had drained her savings after her mother's cancer diagnosis, and 2 younger siblings whose education she supported. Within weeks, Sophia transformed the Wilson household. Meals appeared without being requested. The house ran with clockwork precision, and Wilson found himself looking forward to returning home, not to see Clara, but to discuss the day's news with Sophia, whose insights reminded him of the idealistic law student he'd once been. Clara noticed. Of course she noticed. The first time Arthur Johnson visited after Sophia's arrival, Clara tensed visibly. Her father's sporadic appearances usually ended in strained conversation and early departures. But this time was different. "You remind me of someone," Arthur told Sophia over dinner. "Did your mother ever mention working at Westlake Hospital in the 90s? The question sparked a connection neither could have anticipated. Arthur had been a doctor there. Sophia's mother had been a nurse. Old photographs were shared, stories exchanged, and for the first time, Clara watched her father laugh genuinely in her home, with someone else. The incidents multiplied. A broken vase that Sophia insisted had been intact when she dusted it. Important papers misplaced, then found in unusual locations. Instructions changed, then denied. Each time, Clara's accusations became more pointed, while Sophia's bewilderment seemed increasingly genuine. "I don't understand what's happening," Sophia confided to Arthur during one of his now frequent visits. They sat in the garden, unaware of Clara, watching from the upstairs window. "My daughter has always struggled with change," Arthur replied, his voice heavy with regret. "When her mother died, I wasn't there for her the way I should have been." Clara couldn't hear their words, but the intimacy of their body language sent a cold spike through her chest. That evening, she searched Sophia's room while the younger woman prepared dinner. In the nightstand drawer, she found a small photo album. Inside were pictures of Sophia's family, including several of her mother in a nurse's uniform. But what froze Clara's blood was a faded photograph of her father, younger, smiling, with his arm around Sophia's mother at what appeared to be a hospital Christmas party. The Wilsons' annual dinner for the judicial circuit was Clara's domain. Every detail reflected her impeccable taste. This year, however, Judge Wilson had suggested that Sophia handle the arrangements. She has a background in event management, he explained, not noticing how Clara's smile froze. The evening arrived with 20 of the most influential legal minds in the state gathered around the Wilsons' mahogany dining table. Sophia moved efficiently between kitchen and dining room, her simple black dress professional rather than servile. Clara noticed how several of the male guests followed Sophia with their eyes, including her husband. When Sophia brought the wine for the main course, Clara rose suddenly. "Let me help you with that," she insisted, reaching for the bottle. Their hands met, and the wine, a deep, unforgiving red, splashed across Supreme Court Justice Harmon's cream silk blouse. The table fell silent. "I'm so sorry," Clara gasped, her performance flawless. "Sophia, you should have been more careful." The humiliation was subtle but unmistakable. Several guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Wilson's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Later that night, unable to sleep, Wilson found Sophia organizing the dining room. "About tonight," he began awkwardly. "I want to apologize for what happened." "You don't need to apologize for your wife," Sophia said quietly. "I'm not. I'm apologizing for myself, for not speaking up when I should have." Sophia looked at him directly. "Why didn't you?" "Because it was easier not to. Because I make decisions that affect people's lives every day, but in my own home." He trailed off. "We all compromise," Sophia said. "I pretend this job is what I want. You pretend not to notice the problems in your marriage. Clara pretends she's happy with the life she's chosen." Neither noticed Clara standing in the shadows of the hallway, listening to every word. The manila envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning. Clara signed for it, noting the return address of her father's attorney. Inside was a copy of Arthur's revised will, sent as a courtesy before the official filing. The majority of Arthur's estate would still pass to Clara, but a significant portion, including his medical research patents and a summer cottage Clara had loved as a child, was now designated for Sophia Mendez, daughter of Maria Mendez, née Castillo, in recognition of our family connection and her kindness in my later years. Clara called her father immediately. "Who was Maria Castillo to you?" she demanded. "Maria was a nurse at my hospital. We were close friends, nothing more," Arthur explained. "When your mother became ill, Maria was her primary nurse. She noticed symptoms I missed. If I'd listened to her sooner, your mother might have had a chance." "What does that have to do with Sophia?" "After your mother died, I couldn't face my failure. I threw myself into research, neglected you. Maria tried to convince me to be the father you needed, but I pushed her away too. Meeting Sophia was a chance to make amends, in some small way." When Wilson returned home that evening, Clara confronted him with the will. "She's been playing us from the beginning. Don't you see? She researched us, found our weakness, my father's guilt, and exploited it." "That's a serious accusation without evidence," Wilson replied. "What would her motive be? Money? Position? Maybe she's after you too. I've seen how you look at her, how you talk to her like she's your intellectual equal." The next morning, Sophia found Clara waiting in the kitchen, the will spread on the counter between them. "I believe we need to talk," Clara said with artificial calm. "I'll sign a waiver renouncing any claim," Sophia offered immediately. "I never wanted." "What exactly did you want when you applied for this job?" Clara interrupted. "Was it coincidence that you ended up in the home of your mother's former colleague?" "I only learned about their history when your father recognized my last name. My mother didn't talk much about her life before her illness." That evening, Wilson found Clara methodically removing Sophia's belongings from the guest room. "What are you doing?" he asked, alarm evident in his voice. "Preparing for inevitable changes," Clara replied. "She can't stay here forever." "This isn't your decision alone," Wilson said firmly. "And I've just recommended her for a position with the court administration. Her organizational skills and discretion would be valuable there." The box in Clara's hands crashed to the floor. "You did what? Without discussing it with me first? Your wife." The Children's Hospital benefit event sparkled with wealth and influence. Clara moved through the crowd with practiced charm, her emerald gown catching the light. Across the room, Wilson chatted with the hospital board, while Sophia efficiently coordinated with the event staff, a task Clara had unexpectedly assigned her at the last minute. By 11, the event was winding down. Clara had consumed several glasses of champagne, her movements becoming less precise, her laughter slightly too loud. The drive home began in tense silence. Wilson behind the wheel, Clara beside him, Sophia in the back seat. "Did you enjoy yourself this evening, Sophia?" Clara asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the quiet. "It was a successful event," Sophia answered neutrally. "The hospital exceeded their fundraising goal." "Tell me, when did you first decide to target my family? Was it when you learned about my father's connection to your mother? Or was my husband the primary objective all along?" "Clara, stop this," Wilson warned. "You're being irrational." "Is it irrational to question why my father changed his will to include a woman he barely knows? Is it irrational to wonder why my husband recommends this same woman for a position without consulting me?" "Pull over," Clara demanded suddenly. Wilson reluctantly guided the car to the shoulder of the road. They were in an unfamiliar neighborhood of mixed commercial and residential buildings, most dark at this late hour. Clara turned fully to face Sophia. "Get out." "Clara, this is insane," Wilson protested. "We're miles from anywhere. Either she goes, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of judge you really are." Clara threatened. "How you've been carrying on with the help while your wife suffers. Imagine the headlines, Wilson. Your career would never recover." Sophia stepped out into the night, her formal dress incongruous against the urban backdrop. "Goodbye, Judge Wilson. Mrs. Johnson." The car door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded more final than a slam would have. 20 minutes later, Wilson was driving back, searching for Sophia. When he finally located her at a 24-hour diner, she was already with her brother. "I think it's time for me to tender my resignation," Sophia said without preamble. "I understand. What happened tonight was unacceptable." "It's been building for months," Sophia replied. "I should have left sooner." "Why didn't you?" "At first, because I needed the job. Then because I respected your work. And finally, because I thought I could help somehow." "Help? Your wife is deeply unhappy, Judge Wilson. And so are you." The Wilson household transformed overnight. Sophia's absence created a vacuum that neither Clara nor Wilson attempted to fill. They moved around each other like cautious strangers, their conversations reduced to necessary logistics. A week after Sophia's departure, Clara found a sealed envelope on her desk. Inside was a notarized document in which Sophia Mendez formally renounced any claim to Arthur Johnson's estate. No note accompanied it, no explanation offered, just a clean, legal severing of ties. The following Sunday, Clara's phone rang with her father's number. "Clara, I need you to come to Memorial Hospital. They're saying it was a heart attack." The hospital corridors seemed endless as Clara followed the directions to the cardiac unit. Turning the final corner, she stopped abruptly. There, outside her father's room, sat Sophia. "He's stable," Sophia said without preamble. "The doctor says it was a mild attack, caught early." "Why are you here?" "Your father called me after he called the ambulance. I was helping him organize his research papers when it happened." Inside the hospital room, Arthur looked smaller than Clara remembered. "Sophia was here," Arthur said. "She saved my life, you know. Recognized what was happening before I did." "I need to tell you something," Arthur continued. "About Maria Castillo. About why I included Sophia in my will. Maria wasn't just your mother's nurse. She was my closest friend during the darkest period of my life. When your mother died, I pushed everyone away, including you. I remember. Maria was the only one who wouldn't let me disappear completely. She kept reminding me that I still had you, that you needed me. When she became ill years later, I tried to help, but she refused." In the quiet of the hospital chapel, Clara struggled to find the right words. "My father told me about your mother," she finally said to Sophia. "About what she did for him after my mother died." "Is that what I did to you?" Clara asked. "Hurt you because I feared losing what I loved?" I think you saw me as a threat to everything you'd built. Your marriage, your relationship with your father, your sense of security. The truth that you gave up a career you loved to become someone you thought you should be. Sophia countered gently. That your husband has lost sight of why he became a judge. That your father has been trying to apologize for years, while you've been waiting for him to fail again. 6 months later, the gallery buzzed with conversation and the gentle clink of champagne glasses. Clara moved through the crowd, stopping occasionally to explain the concept behind her exhibition. Reflections. The faces we show and the selves we hide. It's your best work, Arthur said, approaching with a glass of sparkling water. His recovery had been steady, his relationship with Clara transforming through weekly dinners and honest conversations that should have happened decades earlier. Across the room, Wilson chatted with a group of law students. His transition from judge to professor had raised eyebrows in legal circles, but the energy in his classroom discussions had already made him a student favorite. The gallery door opened, and Sophia entered, hesitating briefly before spotting Arthur and making her way toward him. She wore a tailored suit, her new position as events director at a boutique hotel chain evident in her confident bearing. "Congratulations on the exhibition," Sophia said, greeting Clara with the careful warmth they had established during Arthur's recovery. "The concept is powerful." "Thank you for coming," Clara replied, meaning it. "Dad mentioned you might be here." Arthur beamed at them both, the joy of reconciliation evident in his face. "My 2 girls," he said, then caught himself. "I'm sorry, that was presumptuous." "It's all right," Sophia said gently. "Family comes in many forms." Later, as the crowd thinned, Clara found herself alone with Wilson in a quiet corner of the gallery. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't hired her?" she asked, watching Sophia across the room. Wilson considered the question. "I think we would have continued as we were, successful, admired, and slowly dying inside. I was so afraid of losing everything that I nearly destroyed it myself. And I was so committed to appearing principled that I compromised my actual principles," Wilson acknowledged. "We were quite a pair." As the evening ended, the 3 of them stood together outside the gallery. No awkwardness remained, just the quiet acknowledgement of a journey shared. "My hotel is hosting a charity event next month," Sophia mentioned, "for cancer research. I'd be honored if you both would attend." "We'll be there," Clara promised, exchanging a glance with Wilson that confirmed his agreement. As Sophia walked toward her car, Clara called after her, "Sophia?" "Thank you." Sophia turned, questioning. "For being the mirror we needed," Clara explained, "even when we didn't want to see our reflection." Sophia smiled, understanding the depth behind the simple words. Sometimes the greatest gift is seeing ourselves clearly, even when the image isn't what we expected. The story of Clara, Wilson, and Sophia wasn't a conventional love story. There was no romantic resolution, no dramatic declarations of passion. Instead, it was a story about a different kind of love, the love that emerges when we have the courage to face our deepest fears and still choose connection. Sometimes the most profound love stories aren't about falling in love with someone else, but about finding the courage to love ourselves enough to live truthfully. And sometimes, the people who enter our lives aren't meant to stay forever, but to shake us awake, to remind us of who we truly are beneath the roles we play. Has someone ever entered your life and changed it completely, even though they were meant to stay? Tell us your story in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Zenith Inspiring Stories for more powerful tales of love, growth, and redemption. Remember, the most beautiful transformations often begin with the most painful awakenings.